Shëndetje gjithëve. Po e shoh që një numër që është online. Normalisht kushdo që na bashkangjitet ata vazhdojnë të na ndëgjojnë. Mirë se keni ardhur në këtë webinar tonin për sa vjet realisht nuk kemi marrë webinare, po e mbajmë, po e fillojmë, po shpresojmë që të ketë dobi si për ju ashtu edhe për ne. Ky webinar është i dedikuar për software-in Plateia. Që jeni në dieni edhe nga informatat të cilat I kemi shpërndarë edhe më herët. Webinari do të jetë pjesa e Plateias, do të jetë në gjuhën angleze. Hyrja do të jetë nga ana ime në gjuhën shqipe, edhe pyetjet dhe përgjigjet të cilat mund t'i keni në fund mund t'i vendosni qoftë në gjuhën angleze, qoftë në gjuhën shqipe. Nëse nuk arrim të përgjigjemi live këtu përmes këtij webinari, përgjigjet do t'i japim edhe më vonë. Nëse pyetjet janë në gjuhën shqipe dhe janë teknike, do na duhet t'u përkthejmë kolegëve nga Slovenia, edhe ata do të na përgjigjen. Kështu që varësisht nga kjo situatë, edhe do vendosim se sa do arrim të përgjigjemi. Atëherë po e filloj me një hyrje për neve si NextPlus dhe për partnerin tonë CGS Labs nga Slovenia, dhe pastaj do vazhdojmë edhe me pjesën e Platejës. Unë do e bëj share ekranin tim në një prezantim jo shumë të gjatë. Nuk e di nëse është duke u pa. Më duket se është çdo gjë në rregull. Atëherë ky webinar është I organizuar nga ne si NextPlus dhe CGS Labs nga Slovenia. Do ta mbajmë unë Sabri Murati, që jam drejtori ekzekutiv I kompanisë NextPlus, edhe Klemen Ozimek është product manager nga CGS Labs. Welcome, Klemen. We will start in Albanian first one. After that, will be time for you. Ne jemi partner, ose të e fillojmë edhe me pjesën e kush jemi ne si NextPlus. Kemi fillu në vitin 2004 me emrin City Computer në atë kohë, që ishim kogja të ri dhe shumë entuziast, të gatshëm për të bërë shumë gjëra dhe për të mundu për të pas sukses me ato gjë. Edhe sot ruajmë të njëjtin entuziazëm, edhe pas 21 viteve, dhe mundohemi të lëmë gjurmë të pashlyeshme në industrinë cilën ne punojmë. Që nga themelimi kemi filluar në Prishtinë, për vite me radhë kemi vazhduar të krijojmë një kulturë të kompanisë që në qendër të jetë njeriu, inovacioni dhe shërbimi sa më I mirë për klientët. Jemi partner të shumë kompanive, në pjesën hardware jemi nga për HP, Lenovo, Dell, Fortinet e kështu me radhë. Për pjesën e softwareve jemi të partner të Autodesk, të CGS Labs, Studiars, Radimpex, PowerPath, CAD Profi, Microsoft, Adobe, Radimpex, pas na përmend dyja Radimpexin, Virej, Corona e kështu me radhë. Dhe për trajnime jemi Autodesk Training Center, edhe jemi Certiport Testing Center. Kur kemi fillu atëherë, kemi fillu si City Computer, ndërsa para 3 viteve, në vitin 2022, kemi bën një ribrandim dhe nga atëherë ne quhemi NextPlus. Dhe veprimtaritë tona I kemi emërtuar në këtë formë. Next Store është pjesa jonë e cila merret me pjesën e shitjes së hardware-it dhe shërbimeve për hardware. Next Solutions është njësia jonë që merret me software dhe shërbimet apo konsulencën rreth softwareve të cilat ne I shesim apo standardeve të cilat janë tani më të njohura në industrinë e ndërtimit, jemi të fokusuar kryesisht në softverët inxhinierik dhe profilizimi jonë është i dedikuar në këtë fushë. Kështu që edhe shërbimet apo konsulencat cilën mund të ofrojmë i dedikohet kësaj pjese dhe jemi të certifikuar në BIM nga Building Smart International. Edhe Next Academy është njësia e cila merret me çështjen e trajnimeve, tani për tani si Autodesk Training Center, shpresojmë edhe me disa gjëra tjera që jemi duke punu në to për një të ardhme të afërt. CGS Labs është një kompani nga Slovenia, e themeluar diku në vitin 89, nëse nuk gaboj, edhe në portfolion e vet ka disa lloje të softverëve, ka Plateia, cila është edhe tema e sotme, i cili është një softver në parim ju shumica për ju sigurisht veç e njehni, keni dëgju për te dhe do shta edhe punani mirë me te. Është një softver për projektimin e rrugëve në 2D dhe 3D dhe në projektimin e rekonstruksionit të rrugëve që mbështet rrjedhat e punës në BIM. Është softver i bazuar në CAD platform, thjesht duhet kemi AutoCAD ose Civil 3D për të punuar në Plateia, se kjo është si një shtesë, si një plugin për AutoCAD dhe Civil 3D. Është Ferrovia, është një softver tjetër që ka në portfolion e CGS Labs, e cila është zgjidhje në BIM gjithashtu për projektimin e hekurudhave në 2D dhe 3D, analizën e rrugës hekurudhore dhe riorganizimin e vijës hekurudhore. Është një gjë që te na kohëve të fundit ka pas projekte në fushën e hekurudhave. Në Shqipëri tani më veç është kogja aktuale kjo pjesë dhe shpresojmë se do të jetë shumë shpejt edhe një webinar tjetër sa i përket ferrovias, e cila është e caktuar apo e përcaktuar me datën 17 të këtij muaji. Kështu që ju ftojmë edhe në atë datë të jeni pjesë e këtij webinari për ferrovian. Pastaj kemi Aquaterra, është një softver tjetër për projektimin inxhinierik të kanaleve dhe lumenjve me kalkulime hidraulike të integruara si Mike Flood dhe HECRAS. Edhe ky është plugin shtojc për AutoCAD dhe Civil 3D, njëjtë sikur edhe Ferrovia dhe Plateia, kështu që të tërija përderisa janë shtojca të Civil 3D-s janë edhe BIM ready që themi ne. CGS Labs ka edhe softverët AutoPath dhe AutoSign, janë softver për simulimin dhe analizën e kursive, rreth rrotullimeve, parkingjve, kthimit të automjeteve, ndërsa AutoSign për projektimin e shenjave të trafikut dhe shenjëzimit të rrugëve. Mjaft interesante që janë kogja të nevojshme edhe në vendet tona, qoftë Kosovë, qoftë Shqipëri. Sa i përket prezantimit të shkurtë të këtyre produkteve, edhe neve si kompani, ishte kjo, unë du ta përmbylli këtë pjesën e prezantimit edhe me çështjen e mënyrës së licencimit të softverëve të CGS Labs, qoftë Plateia, qoftë Ferrovia, qoftë Aquaterra apo AutoSign dhe AutoPath, janë softverë që ofrohen në disa mundësi. Në ne ofrohet si softver trial që përdoret për të provuar nëse ja vlen për ta vler apo jo. Është versioni trial ofrohet për 14 ditë. Është versioni studentor që ofrohet për studentët cilët dëshmojnë se janë aktualisht student përveç vërtetimeve të marra nga institucionet edukative ku ata studiojnë. Dhe kjo ipet varësisht nga për periudhën kohore, varësisht në çfarë viti është studenti dhe mund të ipet edhe për afat një vjeçar, përderisa ai është student gjatë atij viti. Është versioni commercial që ofrohet për individët apo për kompanitë të cilat ofrojnë shërbime projektimi në këta softver. Versioni commercial ofrohet edhe për një pajisje, edhe për në rrjet, thjesht edhe standalone edhe network. Të dy opsionet të ne ofrohen dhe baza e produktit apo software-it është subscription. Do me thonë, mund të merret në periudhë një vjeçare, në rast të caktuar edhe më të shkurta apo 2 dhe 3 vjeçare. 3 vjeçare, se 2 nuk ofrohet, po 3 vjeçare. Qoftë ai stand-alone, qoftë ai network. Për çështjen e licencave apo çmimeve, kushdo që ka interes mund të na drejtohet pastaj neve përmes email-it apo kontakteve që mund t'i gjeni në web faqen tona apo në për faqet tona në rrjetet sociale. Për pjesën teknike mund të na drejtoni gjithashtu, po për sot do ja lëm fjalën pjesën teknike kolegun nga Slovenia, Klemenit, edhe ai do të flas më shumë për pjesën e Platejas sot, kështu që do ja japim direkt fjalën Klemenit. Clement, time is for you. Welcome in Kosovo. I didn't say it online, but I hope it will be very soon and live in Kosovo.
Good. Thank you, Sabri. So welcome everyone. I will just share my screen. So welcome everyone to Plateia webinar that we have today. My name is Klemen Ozimek. I'm the product manager for Plateia. And I think that most of you already know Plateia. So probably we will talk more about advanced stuff, not just basics. So yeah, the topic of today's webinar is Plateia and everything with that, also site design and stuff like that. So the agenda for today, we will have 2 parts. So first of all, I will talk about a little bit about our last project that we had, which touched a little bit the reconstruction, but it was more about making the areas around schools and kindergartens more safe. So how to make it more safe. For that, we will use also Autodesk products such as Recap and InfraWorks. Then the next part will be the excavation site design. We will just show you what tools are available with Plateia. And the last, we will just quickly go through some new things that we added in the last few versions. So let's just start with the Gabroca project. So I will do my presentation live. So you will see all the steps. So for this project, we wanted to make we wanted to get the information or the data for the road that is already constructed. So for that, we in Slovenia have an option to use LiDAR data. So we will use point cloud to make a terrain, a surface, which we will use then in Plateia. So this data is publicly available in Slovenia. So I will just use my address for this project. So here we can see that we have a lot of points. So this is a laser image. So all the points are scanned from aerial, so from a plane, and we can get this data to Civil 3D and then use it in Plateia. So what we can do, this is our project. So we worked on this road. This is the main road here, which goes alongside with the school here. This is the school, and here we have a kindergarten. And the municipality wanted to make this section a little bit safer for the users. So what we can do is actually get this data. So we have different formats, but if we want to just get all the points, we can just download this information. I already did that, so we don't have to wait. And we can use this data in recap. So as you know, it used to be a part of Civil 3D, but recap is more used for point clouds and getting like large amount of data classified and like edited. So we can use recap. We can create a new project here. Okay, here I already have it, but if you wanted to use all those files, the last files for importing the point cloud, we could just import it here. It jumps back. Okay. I don't have this folder, but okay, I have it already here. So what I do is just edit those two files here, and then it is classified, and we can see it here in the browser. So we can see that this is actually the same information or the data we had. And what we can also see are the classifications for different points here. So what we can see is that it's classified between maybe the terrain itself. Then we have like the vegetation here, so the trees, and we have maybe the roofs here, if I can find it. So we can actually remove these points so that our terrain will not include this data. So if a roof is like it's covering a part of the road, then we want to get it removed. So what we can do is actually just remove all points that have this classification. And we can do this for each of different classifications that we have. So also maybe if you can see, there are also cars here that have the 18th classification, and we can also remove that, for example. So everything that it's not terrain or the ground or the roadway surface will not be included into terrain generation. So what else we can do in recap is just to clip it. So we don't want to import all of this section here that we have, but only on what we are working on. So what we can do is actually make some clipping. So let's make a window here. And then we can clip whatever is outside. And we have like first part done. So after we do this, we can then export it, or this is already automatically saved, or we can just move it somewhere else. And then this can be our input to InfraWorks. So this is our first part to get the point cloud into the recap and edited it. And then we can go to InfraWorks. We can use the new project here, and then we assign the coordinate system. So we use DT96 here, but whatever is appropriate to your region. After we do this, then we import the recap file. So I have already done this, so we can just open it here. it will be quick. So in InfraWorks, we will now generate a terrain. So, with point cloud, you have millions and millions of points, which are not easily editable in CAD platform. So that's why we use different programs. And in InfraWorks, we will make a terrain, and we can also get some lines from what we see here. So this is our section here. This is the road we are interested in. So we can see that there are points here, but there are also some terrain in between. So if we check what kind of data we have, so I already done some of the steps here, but what you would do is just insert the points. So we have this data here, data content, where we can input our point cloud, which is an RCP file format from recap. And then you get all the points, and then you have to generate the terrain. So how you would do that is just use this button here, and then you can check what are the processing rules. So how many details should the ground have, or if you have any linear or vertical features, you can also set that. So we have done this, and then we can also, what we can do is get the road edges. So what we see where the road is, and we can also do this linear feature extraction. So how we do this is just by placing the line or the points on this surface. So that's why you also need to generate the terrain first, because then you can select any point in the drawing and get the elevation there. So we can actually just make some points here. We can also make some arcs if needed, curves, and get all the edges from existing terrain. So you get the lines or the polylines, and then you can also export them to a shapefile, which you can use then to also in Civil 3D or else. So this is the basic workflow. And then if we move to Civil 3D, so let's go here. Okay, and then we can insert this InfraWorks model. So I can just use this, and okay, close it. And here I have the same model, so in InfraWorks, for which I still need to define the coordinate system. So we had the one in InfraWorks, which we also need to set it for Civil. Then we can import the whole section from InfraWorks or only some area that we are interested in. So let's open this model up and see what we get. So this takes a little bit of time, but what we will get is the surface or the terrain that we can already drape Plateia alignments, cross sections, and stuff like that. So what we see is the surface, and I also prepared those lanes that we saw before. So I will just open up another drawing and use that as a reference. So I only took a part of that section of the road that we were looking at. Okay, so we can see where we are. And now I want to reconstruct or get the alignment here. So what we could do is just get, I don't know, the middle line here, or maybe we could try to trace it with a new alignment, so making a new main elements here. But what we can also do is just use this best fit option that we have. So I will just use best fit and based on polylines. So I will use 2 polylines, so for the left and the right edge. So I will use left and right, and I need to define also the direction. So if this alignment goes to the right or to the left. So I can just use this alignment direction option and just select the first point and the last point, and this will have the general direction. So this will create a new alignment with this name, and it will be drawn as a tangent polygon. So in this case, on this project, we weren't looking for the most right alignment, but just the right edges and the widths and the heights. So this is also default widenings for this alignment. We can draw it or we don't have to. Let's just click OK. It doesn't matter here because we have our own polylines here. And we get the best fit alignment here. I will just maybe scale those labels down so it's a little more easier to see. And what we will do is now we got the default lanes, so these widths are not correct, but we want to use what we already defined in InfraWorks. So how we can do that is just by using match prop command, for example, which will get all the layer on which the lane is placed and the color and the line type and stuff like that. So from the source object to the destination object. Okay, and then the same thing for the other part. And then we can actually delete the default lanes that were calculated. And now we have alignment and we have the lanes. So what we can do is now also create sample lines. In this case, I will just use on the distance of 20 meters with the width of 10 meters because we don't need that much to the left and right side. And this will be automatically projected on the terrain that was created from point cloud and generated in InfraWorks. So yeah, the next part is that we can now create the profile view. So let's go to the draw profile view command. This will read all the elevation data from the alignment and the sample lines. We can see all the sample lines here. We can change the scale maybe and place the profile view somewhere in the drawing. And then this terrain line that we have for this alignment will actually represent the current road surface or road elevation. So the next part is what we can do is also set the left and right edge. So this what I have here are normal polylines with the 0 elevation, but I want to have this elevation on the surface. So for that, we can use some functionalities that we have in site design. So CGS Labs, if you go to the main ribbon tab, you can also see that there are all the products. And the last one is the site design module, which will open up another ribbon where there are some tools for editing polylines and surfaces. So for that, we can use polyline editor, and I will drape this polyline onto the surface. So I will click convert 2D to 3D polyline, which will actually create me a new 3D polyline with 0 elevation. But now I can actually raise it to the surface. So I have two options. One is for each vertex that we have on the polyline, and the other one is everywhere where there is a triangle from the thin surface, where there is a break, there will be a new point. But this will create me a lot of new points, so I will just use vertices only for this example, and I will check, or I will choose the civil 3D surface. Okay, so this will get me all the elevations for all the points or the vertices, and I will do the same for the left edge. So let's do that. Good. Now we can actually use this information to get the super elevation, so the existing super elevations. So how we can do that is by going into the profile and using this edit super elevations command. So first of all, there is a warning because we don't have a profile line. It says that it is missing and that the terrain line will be used as such, which is actually good in our case. So what we can see is now that all the super elevations right now are at 0% because we don't have anything defined yet. So we can actually use the lane left. With right click, you get additional options and you can get super elevations from 3D polyline. So what you do is actually just select the 3D polyline, and for each vertices that is perpendicular to the alignment, you will get some value which will try to get to the point of the surface. So we can do that the same for the right edge. So let's do that. And here we also get new points or new stations, user-defined stations. But then here are some that are 0 because these are actually new points on the right lane for which we didn't calculate from the left lane. So what we can do to fix this is just to select the left lane again, and this will just recalculate all the values for all the stations. But as we can see, there are quite a lot of these user-defined stations, and we actually don't need as much. So what we can do is just delete them. So we can do from the first one to the last user defined and just remove all the rows that have user defined. This will not delete the starting and ending station of the main elements, but just user defined stations. And this will get us some values here for which we can click OK. And then we can check this in our rubric in the super elevation rubric. And we can see here that maybe not everything is as it should be. So for example, here we have quite a jump to 30%, which we can actually just fix it quite easily. So let's go again into our table of super elevations, and we can see where these jumps happens. Maybe in that case we didn't get any values and we just got some interpolation, but what we can do is maybe just check the previous and next value and just maybe interpolate between those two. So we get something that is quite good. So for this example, it will be okay. So we have existing super elevations, and if we create cross sections, we will get the profile or the height of the road on the surface line, and then based on the super elevations, we will get those lanes. Let's just click OK. And here we get now the terrain, which was from point cloud, which is quite, we have a lot of vertices here, but we can also remove some of them to be able to easier to see those elevations here in the rubric maybe. So for that, we can go to the menu and we can go to the cross section, so 41E command, and we can filter terrain data from the cross sections. So maybe some useful tool for when you are working with surfaces that have quite a lot of vertices. So we can check how much the distance should be between the labeling between the 2 points. We can remove the points from terrain, or we can just remove those vertical lines and the labels. So if we go 1 meter between 2 points, then this will go through each cross section and you will have a better view of cross sections for plotting and stuff like that. So yeah, this is just a quick overview. What we have done on this project is actually, if I can show you here. We also created some visibility rays. So for the design speed that it's defined and for the amount of width that we have on those lanes, and based on the vertical alignment, you can calculate or you can draw this visibility rays. And based on this data, you can then see if maybe the speed should be reduced in some part, which is what we did here. So we put another limit here on for 30 kilometers an hour for the section here that it's most narrow. And then for this project, we actually have a new signalizations for school zones. So we have a new road markings and vertical signalization. So based on this, we also created some 3D models and some visualizations. So this is maybe the first step when we were creating 3D model is just to create the 3D solids, the surfaces. So we used our own software, so AutoSign for creating 3D vertical signalizations and stuff like that. And then we also used some external software to use for visualization. So yeah, this was our first project. And then the next step that we talked about, or that I said, is the excavation site design. So this is our next case example that I will show you now. So let's go back to our civil. And on this case, I will just show you some more useful tools from Plateia that you can use in your own project. So here's a project where the points and the lines were drawn in 2D. So everything was actually on the layer 0 or the surface 0 elevation. And for this case, I already converted the points to 3D, but we can also do that for 2D lines. So for that, we have a nice command here in Plateia. So if we go to the layout tab and use 11K3 command to drape elements on CGS points, what we can do actually is to give all those 2D lines elevation of the points. So even if there is a curve, it will be segmented. And yeah, also for all the straight lines. So what we need to do is select all the polylines. And then we need to select the CGS points from which the height will be read. So we will select all CGS points. And here in this command, you also have some additional settings. So you can change how much the arc will be tessellated, so how much it will be segmented, because there are no curves in 3D. So 2D curves will be segmented based on this interpolation. And also, if you have a line that it's not exactly at the point or it's close by, you can set this tolerance for which the distance should be looked at. You can also move the vertex to the nearest point. So if you have a line and you know that it's a mistake and you want to have it exactly on the point, you have this option here. So let's click OK. And what we get are actually all the 2D lines here in 3D. So this is actually good if you have, I don't know, curves and you want, when creating the surface, you want to take that into account. So what we will do now is go to the layout tab. We will use our terrain command here. And I will just use some surface name and select everything that we have here in the 3D. We will create triangles and maybe change the coloring of this surface. So for this example, I wanted to show you how to make two surfaces and how to calculate the volumes in between. So I have already prepared some polylines from which we will work on. And I will show you the next command. So we have two new polylines here underneath our surface. And I will maybe just hide some things so that it will be easier to see. So okay, so now we have two polylines and we want to create the surface underneath from which we will calculate the volume from our original terrain. So for that, we will also use this draw grading command. So what this actually does is create another 3D polyline based on some parameters that we choose. So we can go back and I will use this grading. I will select the polyline that I want to go from and select the side. So if we are working on the inner side or the outer side, and from which region. So I don't need to select everything. I can just select part of this polyline, but in this case, I want to select everything. And I will create some offset from this line. So in this case, I will use offset relative elevations, but we have different parameters here, so which you can choose. So offset is the offset from original line, and then the relative elevation is the elevation from that line up or down. So let's make offset 0.3 meters and relative elevation 3 meters and see what we get here. So this will create me another line on the layer 0. We can also create another layer name. Site and click OK. So as you can see, we have another 3D polyline, which is green with offset and relative elevation from that first polyline. Then I will do the same for the second polyline. So here, select outer side for the whole polyline. And here I will have some different criteria. So I will use offset, drape, and elevation. And here in this case, I will also drape this to the original surface. So with offset of 1 meter and with no relative elevation, I think that we have this here, yeah. It will be draped on the surface. So maybe let's also do that on some other layer and click OK. And yeah, we also need to select which surface we want to use. And that also opens up another dialog here. So for the fill or for the cut, depending if the line is above or below this surface. So I will just use the same definition here and click OK. So what we got is another polyline here, but this is a little bit different. It's not only 1 meter offset, but we can see that it's also projected on the surface and has much more detail or much more vertices. So from all of that, we can now create another surface. So I will use cut, for example. So this will be excavated. And I will select the polylines that we have created and check how it is. Now we can see that we have some kind of a box, some kind of excavation site, but we also see that there are some triangles that are going on the outer side of this box, and this I want to remove because for the volume calculation it's better to have it just on that part where it's defined. So I will go back to the terrain command, and I will just, for the surface cut, I will define the boundary. So this can actually be the same line as you used for the input information. And let's click OK and see what we get. So now we can see that all of those triangles were removed and it's a bit better now. So the next part is to get the volume in between. So I will just show the existing terrain. And here we can see that we have both terrains here. So if we go back to the site design tab, we have a command here called surface volume, where you can actually check what is the base surface. So this is our terrain. And then the bottom surface or the other surface, which is our cut. And here we get actually the value, how much of cubic meters you will need to excavate or remove. So this can be quite useful. So this was the second example. What we can also show here is also one part of what we added in the latest release. So for what's new, if I go back to this case, we actually added also export of surfaces. So now that we have those two surfaces, we can also use in the utility tab, land XML export, where you can see the surfaces that we defined. Let's see if I can this. And then I can also import this in Civil 3D, or you can also prepare surface in Civil 3D and import it into CGS. So anyway, you can use this. Here, let's import the land XML file, and you can see that we get the same result here. Okay. Then what else is new? So for everything that we added in the latest release, you can also check in the release notes. So if you just search CGS Labs release notes, you can find everything that was added in the latest releases. We also make a document and explanation of what we added, what was fixed, what was changed. So maybe if you're not familiar with the latest versions, one of the important things that we added is also an option to rescale the profiles, which was missing before. So if I can just quickly show you, we have an alignment with profile view. And if you go to the profile ribbon tab, under the draw profile view, we have another command here for rescaling. So it used to be more cumbersome to rescale everything. So if you need to plot it in some different scale, then you had to I don't know, recreate it in another drawing or something like that. But now you can just change the scale here. Different for the horizontal or the vertical scale. And this will actually scale all the rubrics, all the elements that we have in Plateia, so the alignment, all the calculated super elevations and stuff like that. What is also possible here is to scale different things. So we have additional settings here. So even if you have like some your own elements, so for example, if I go back and just draw some polyline, and here you have something defined, maybe some text that you created, and maybe you said this is 10 meters or something like that. Not important right now, but here you also have an option to scale the user elements. So what this means that this will be moved to the correct location, and based on the difference in scale, you can also resize, for example, this text. So just another option for the user. And then what it's also possible is to rescale the rubrics. So maybe, you know, when you enlarge it and if you have a long alignment, then those texts are become quite small to see. So for that, now we also have a scaling, an option for scaling the rubrics height and the content within the rubrics. So if you use this option, then everything is rescaled underneath the graphical part. And then another option is also to scale the labels. So we have those labels here in the graphical part. And if we use, I don't know, 500, scale CGS labels, that means that this will be 2 times longer and the labels will be 2 times bigger. So maybe one last thing that I wanted to show you is also that we added hatch to planimetry command or option or functionality. So if I show you here, there are 2 new functionalities in the cross sections. So first of all, we can use the insert block command and use blocks that already have some hatches within themselves. So for example, I have some block here or some drawing that contains polylines and hatches with certain color. And I can use this now in cross section and just find the block that I want to use. So based on the label, this will also, the hatch will also be named like that. You have to use the explode option so that hatching can be done. And let's click OK. Select where I want to put it. And we can see that we have a block here. So this is now a CGS element, which has all the hatches. And from this, we can also calculate the volumes and create a 3D model. So this is one part of this functionality. The other part is to actually create the hatches in the drawing itself in the cross section. So if I will just quickly make some example here. So this will be another boundary, and I will maybe create another layer here, user hatch, with some other color. And now I can use hatch command and just select this object here. And I can copy this to maybe some other profile. And maybe the third. And now I can actually convert this hatch that I just created in Civil and use this convert option to choose this hatch. So before it was only possible to convert the polylines, but now also the hatches can be converted. So let's leave it as that. I will use the layer option, so it will just check on each of the cross sections for that layer, and it will be converted. So what we can do now is to get the quantity. So I will show it here in the drawing on the cross section itself. And then I can also create a 3D model. For that, you need to go to the Utility tab. And here I will also use the Align option, which will actually align the 3D solids according to the alignment. So let's do that. And what we get is that wall that we imported with the block, and also those hatches that we created are now shown in 3D. Okay, if I go back to my slides, so these were all the examples that I wanted to show you today. What I also wanted to share is all the content that we have. So we have help files where you have explanations of commands, which are quite useful. So you can find them in the ribbon tab. Then we have a knowledge base, so the index, which is also available from the ribbon itself. So we have this knowledge base, which has some tutorials and some explanations which are more in depth. Then we have a free online Plateia lessons from our website. This is just the basic overview of Plateia Ferrovia Aquaterra. Then the webinars are freely available. We have a YouTube channel where we post new videos or what is new. We have a LinkedIn profile where we show the reference stories or anything important. And then we also have a blog where you can see different stories. And this will be it from my side. So I'm handing it back to you, Sabri.
Thank you so much, Clement. Besoj që ka pas dobi ky prezantim nga Klemeni, para se me dalte pyetje përgjigjet, harrova ta potencoj se CGS Labs është tani më pjesë e Transoft Solution Company. Nga ky vit, kompania Transoft Solutions nga Kanada ka blerë kompaninë CGS Labs nga Slovenia dhe tani më CGS Labs është pjesë e kompanisë Transoft Solution. Transoft Solution është një kompani nga Kanada që është një prej ofruesve të softverëve për transportin infrastrukturor prej liderëve në botë. Ka edhe informacione tjera në webfaqen zyrtare për këtë gjë, kështu që kushdo që ka ndonjë interesim mund të më qas webfaqeve dhe më i shiqu për këtë aspekt. Kthehemi te pyetjet. Ne kemi, sigurisht i shihni edhe ju, një pyetje kemi se a është Plateia BIM ready, dhe është përgjigj kolegja Petra nga Slovenia. Thonë, secili nga ju mund ta lexoni këtë. Nuk e di nëse ka dikush tjetër në pyetje apo jo. Do presim pak nëse dikush ka interes për një pyetje, apo normalisht ne jemi këtu, kështu që edhe ma vonë ju kujtu, prapë mundi me na pyet, nuk ka ndonjë problem. Nuk po shoh që është duke shënu dikush për ndonjë pyetje. Kështu që gjithsesi, nëse nuk ka pyetje apo nëse ju kujtohen më vonë, mund të na kontaktoni edhe më tutje. Shohini nga qeti. Okej. Unë ju falenderoj gjithëve për pjesëmarrje. Ju ftoj në webinarin tjetër që do jetë me datën 17 për ferrovian, edhe shpresoj që takohemi sërish. Faleminderit shumë e mirupafshim. Thank you, Clement. See you again in next webinar.
Thank you for hosting us. Yeah.
Thank you. Faleminderit shumë, mirupafshim.